What if we want to convert units in the US system where we're actually converting out area or volume measures? There's a couple different ways to do this, but let's change out 5 square yards to square feet. So again, whatever you're given, which is the 5 square yards, I'm going to put over 1. Now we can look at this as basically saying I have 2 yard units I have to convert out. So the way I like to do this is I like to build then 2 new fractions where yards are on the diagonal. Okay, so this square yards, even though the exponent doesn't really affect the word yards, right? You can't do a mathematical operation on a word. You kind of can think about it as the fact that you've got yards times yards when you were computing the area. So you've got 2 yards units you need to convert out. So then I put 2 yards units in the denominator. Now I'm going to ask myself if I know a relationship between yards, what I'm in, and feet, to which is what I want to go to. And the relationship is that there are 3 feet and 1 yard. So next to the yard labels, I'm going to put 1 yard. And in the numerator, I'm going to write 3 feet. So those are my conversion factors of the relationship of feet to yards. There are 3 feet to 1 yard. I'm going to do that for both of these fractions, 3 feet to 1 yard. Now my square yards will cancel with the 2 yards units in the denominator. And then what I'm left with is feet times feet, or square feet. To kind of visualize what's going on, if I have a square, and that square is a 1 yard by 1 yard square, this thing's area would be 1 square yard. But remember, a yard is the same thing as 3 feet. So I could think about this as also being a 3 foot by 3 foot square. And then the area of the square would be 3 times 3, or 9 square feet. So what we're seeing when we get into the area measurements is that 1 square yard is equivalent to 9 square feet. Now you could use that direct relationship, but as opposed to having to figure out how the areas relate, I just like to use the linear relationships. These are the ones that we usually more standardized know. And then we can just set up as many fractions for however many units we're trying to cancel. So then to compute my final answer, I would be 5 times 3 times 3, which is going to be 45, and then my final answer would be in square feet. Now if you'd wanted to, if you realize that you're going to have 2 of these 3 feet to 1 yard conversions that you have to do, you could set this up just as one fraction, 3 feet to 1 yard as your conversion factor, and then you could just square that. So the same thing as the square yards right here would cancel with the square yards that you'd get down here, because that would be yards and then the squared. And then you would have 5 times 3 squared, or 5 times 9. You'd still get 45 square feet for your final answer. I like to set it up where you can see the individual fractions, just because I think it makes it a little bit more clear about how many times you have to create this factor in order to get things to cancel. Let's try this with a volume conversion. So I have 147 cubic feet, and I want to convert this to cubic yards. So I'll put the 147 cubic feet over 1. Now technically I have 3 feet unit I need to cancel, so I'm going to set up 1, 2, 3 fractions with feet in the denominators. And the relationship is that there are 3 feet to 1 yard. So I'm going to put the 3 next to my feet labels, and I'm going to put my 1 yards in the numerator on all 3 of these new fractions that I'm building. My cubic feet will cancel with the feet in the denominators, and then I'm left with yards, 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 or cubic yards. So then to compute my final answer, I'll have 147 times 1 times 1 times 1, or 147. In the denominator, I'll have 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. 147 divided by 27, that does not divide nicely, so you would get 5.444 with the 4 repeating, and then the units would be in cubic yards. Now if we were told to round this, let's say to 3 significant digits, So 1, 2, 3 significant digits. Since that 4 is not 5 or bigger, I'm not going to round that last significant digit up, so I would have 5.45 cubic yards. This would be a rounded answer. And just as a reminder, if I wasn't told to round, if I wanted an exact answer, 147 divided by 27. 27 goes into 147 5 times. 5 times 27 is 135. If I subtract that off, I would be left with 12 left over. Right, so I'm just taking this to its mixed number form. So what we just found is 147 over 27 is equivalent to 5 and 12 27ths. 12 27ths can be simplified by dividing both of those by 3. So it would be 5 and 4 ninths. And then my units would be in cubic yards. Okay, so that's just if we wanted to have an exact answer. Just as a nice connection to mixed numbers and kind of where they would come into play. This would be an approximate answer. All right, one last thing, talking about the area and volume and doing the measurements in there. In the U.S. system, land area is typically measured in acres. And the relationship is 1 acre is equivalent to 43,560 square feet. And just to also have a different connection, if you have 1 square mile, so you have a square that is 1 mile by 1 mile, which is 1 square mile, this is also equivalent to 640 acres. So when we measure with land in the U.S. customary system, this is our typical unit of measure is the acres. The relationship to how we measure land in the metric system, which is the hectare, is 1 hectare is equal to 2.47 acres. So as a problem kind of relating this land measurement, question, how many acres are in a rectangular field that measures 1,350 feet by 2,750 feet? And then we'll find out how many hectares that field is as well. I like to draw a very quick picture to kind of visualize what's going on. So here's my rectangle. On the longer side, I'm going to put the longer unit just so it kind of has a little bit more meaning for me. So there's my 2,750 feet by my 1,350 feet. If I want to find the area of this by doing its length times its width, that would be 2,750 times 1,350. Multiplying those two numbers, you get 3,712,500, and my units at that point in time would be in square feet. Now, if I want to figure out how many acres this is, let's do a conversion. So 3,712,500 square feet. I'll put that over 1. And then the relationship is that there are 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. So the square feet units on the diagonal will cancel. So we'll put in the 3,712,500 divided by 43,560. And in your calculator, you should be getting 85.2272, and then there's some more numbers after that. The units would be in acres. If we wanted to take this to 3 significant digits, so I will keep the 8, the 5, and then for my third spot, since the number to the right is not 5 or bigger, I'm not going to round that up, so that would be 85.2, and then it would be acres. So that would be the measurement in the U.S. system. Now let's convert that to the metric system, because we're also asked to answer how many hectares is the field. So I'm going to keep the answer without so much rounding, so the 85.2272, just to keep a couple more decimal places. This would be the answer in acres. I'll put that over 1. I'm trying to get out of acres, so that's going to go on the diagonal. And then the relationship is there's 2.47 acres and 1 hectare. The acres on the diagonals will cancel. So then I want to do my 85.2272 divided by 2.47, and I got 34.504, and there's a couple numbers after that. If I want to keep that to 3 significant digits, so I'll keep the 3, the 4, and then looking at the third spot, since the number to the right of that is 0, I won't round up, so this will be 34.5 hectares for my final land measurement for the area of this field.